10th standard English 5th supplementary. A day in 2889 of an American journalist. இதோடைய ஆத்தர் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா ஜூல் வேர்ன் அப்படின்னு இங்கிலீஷில் ப்ரொனவுன்ஸ் பண்ணணும். ஃப்ரெஞ்சு பிரகாரம் சொல்ல போனால் ஜூலு வேர்ன் அப்படின்னு சொல்லணும். ஜூலு வேர்ன். This story speaks about the people of the 29th century who live in fairyland. Surfeited as they are with marvels or silent, they are indifferent to the presence of each new marvel. To them all seem natural. The year is 2889, the date 25th July, and the place is the office block of the managing editor of the Earth Herald, the world's largest newspaper. In this futuristic story, written in 1889, the writer describes how he visualized the world 1,000 years later, a world of technological advancements where newspapers are not printed but spoken. Read the following excerpt for a glimpse of this future world. That morning, Francis Bennett awoke in rather a bad temper. This was 8 days since his wife had been in France, and he was feeling a little lonely. As soon as he awoke, Francis Bennett switched on his phono telephone, whose wires led to the house he owned in the Champs-Élysées. The telephone, completed by the telephote, is another of our time's conquest, though the transmission of speech by the electric current was already very old. It was only since yesterday that vision could also be transmitted. A valuable discovery, and Francis Bennett was by no means the only one to bless its inventor when, in spite of the enormous distance between them, he saw his wife appear in the telephotic mirror. Francis, dear Francis. His name, spoken by that sweet voice, gave a happier turn to Francis Bennett's mood. He quickly jumped out of bed and went to his mechanized dressing room. 2 minutes later, without needing the help of a valet, the machine deposited him, washed, shaved, shot, dressed, and buttoned from top to toe on the threshold of his office. The day's work was going to begin. Francis Bennett went on into the reporter's room. His 1,500 reporters, placed before an equal number of telephones, were passing on to subscribers the news which had come in during the night from the 4 quarters of the earth. In addition to his telephone, each reporter has in front of him a series of commutators which allow him to get into communication with this or that telephotic line. Thus, the subscribers have not only the story but the sight of these events. Francis Bennett questioned one of the 10 astronomical reporters, a service which was growing because of the recent discoveries in the stellar world. Well, Cash, what have you got? Photo telegrams from Mercury, Venus, and Mars, sir. Interesting. And Jupiter? Nothing so far. We haven't been able to understand the signals the Jovians make. Perhaps ours haven't reached them. Aren't you getting some results from the moon at any rate? Not yet, Mr. Bennett. Well, this time you can't blame optical science. The moon is 600 times nearer than Mars, and yet our correspondence service is in regular operation with Mars. It can't be telescopes we need. No, it's the inhabitants, Corley replied. You dare tell me that the moon is uninhabited? On the face, it turns towards us. At any rate, Mr. Bennett, who knows whether on the other side? Well, that's a very simple method of finding out. And that is to turn the moon round. And that very day, the scientists of the Bennett factory started working out some mechanical means of turning our satellite right round. On the whole, Francis Bennett had reason to be satisfied. One of the Earth Herald's astronomers had just determined the elements of the new planet Gandhini. It is at a distance of 12 trillion 841 billion 348 million 284,623 meters and 7 decimeters. That this planet describes its orbit around the sun in 572 years, 194 days, 12 hours, 43 minutes, 9.8 seconds. Francis Bennett was delighted with such precision. Good, he exclaimed. Hurry up. Tell the reportage service about it. You know what a fashion the public has for these astronomical questions. I am anxious for the news to appear in today's issue. The next room, a broad gallery about a quarter of a mile long, was devoted to publicity, and it well may be imagined what the publicity for such a journal as the Earth Herald had to be. It brought in a daily average of $3 million. They are gigantic signs reflected on the clouds so large that they can be seen all over a whole country. From that gallery, 1,000 projectors were unceasingly employed in sending to the clouds on which they were reproduced in color these inordinate advertisements. At that moment, the clock struck 12. The director of the Earth Herald, left the hall and sat down in a rolling armchair. In a few minutes, he had reached his dining room off a mile away at the far end of the office. The table was laid and he took his place at it. Within reach of his hand was placed a series of taps, and before him was the curved surface of a phono-telephote on which appeared the dining room of his home in Paris. Mr. and Mrs. Bennett had arranged to have lunch at the same time. Nothing could be more pleasant than to be face to face in spite of the distance, to see one another and talk by means of the phono-telephotic apparatus. Like everybody else in easy circumstances nowadays, Francis Bennett, having abandoned domestic cooking, is one of the subscribers to the Society for Supplying Food to the Home, which distributes dishes of a thousand types through a network of pneumatic tubes. This system is expensive, no doubt, be silent, but the cooking is better. So, not without some regret, Francis Bennett was launching in solitude. He was finishing his coffee when Mrs. Bennett, having got back home, appeared in the telephone screen.